On September 24th, 2024, I put out a video talking about Resident Evil 2 and the 2 make. Now, on December 24th, 2025, I'm putting out a video about Resident Evil 3 and the 3 make, cementing a tradition of Resident Evil videos on this channel. Hello, my little jortlings. The big hog is back. And like I just said, I made a video last year talking about Resident Evil 2 and the 2 make. This year, I played the original 3 and then the 3 make back to back. And I want to talk about it. So let's just freaking dive in and talk about it. And I'll also put the link to video last year below. Resident Evil 3 is, believe it or not, the third main game in the main series of Resident Evil. It originally came out on September 22nd, 1999 for the PlayStation, and then was eventually ported to Windows, Dreamcast, and GameCube. It was also the only numbered game, like the games that have numbers in the series, that I personally had not played until this year. I have not beaten every numbered game. I still have to beat 4, but I have at least played a bit of 4. 3 was the only game, like I said, I never touched, nor the 3 make, nor the original, and I'm going crazy. Before we get into the meat of the games, I want to do two things. First, I want to read the back of the jewel case to see what it tells us, what it thinks the game is about, and then I'll give you a small summary of what I think the plot is about. And will wires be crossed? Maybe. But you're the one who clicked this video. Just days after surviving the grisly disaster at the Mansion Lab. Huh? Okay, that's already wrong. This game takes place 2 months after the first game. But pop off, I guess. Jill Valentine resigns from STARS, which stands for the Special Tactics and Rescue Squad, and attempts to escape a nightmarish city in ruins. Trapped in a town crawling with hordes of flesh-eating zombies, hideous mutants, and a relentless new nemesis, she must rely on cunning and brute force to stay alive. What she soon discovers is the evil created by Umbrella Corporation's biotech terror is even more horrifying than she ever imagined. Some secrets come back to haunt you. That was alright. Here's a little plot summary in my own words. If this, for some reason, is your first Resident Evil video, you have really good taste. Raccoon City has been overrun with zombies. We play as Master Thief Queen of Unlocking Jill Valentine, who is trying to escape the city, all while being chased by the ooky spooky big bioweapon Nemesis. Nemesis is there to kill Jill because he is trying to kill all members of Jill's team, or former team. In traversing the city, Jill also meets a squad of Umbrella-hired mercenaries named Carlos, Nikolai, and Mikolai, who were initially sent to the city as a cleanup crew to kill off zombies. Mikolai doesn't do a ton because he's already injured when you meet him. Nikolai is just evil. And Carlos, we're going to talk a bit more about later, so I'm going to hold off on that for now. I need to be completely honest. I'm here for honesty and trust, and you're never going to trust me if I'm not honest with you. And so I'm going to be vulnerable and say I started the original game about 2 times before I finally stuck with it. The third time's a charm. Part of the reason why it took me a little longer to just hunker down and do it was because I was bad at it. I needed to restart from the beginning a couple times to really grasp what I was doing. And the original is a difficult game, which is why I had to restart quite a bit. Right from the get-go, you are just overwhelmed with the amount of zombies that are coming at you on the screen. They are bursting out the seams, quite literally. Nemesis, also, when you run into him for the first time, he sprints at you with a terrifying speed, no matter how politely you ask him to stop. Please don't. And Jill Valentine has to power all through this wearing a cunty little skirt. The events of Resident Evil 3 Nemesis take place 2 months after the first Resident Evil game, yet before, during, and after the events of Resident Evil 2. And I think that's fucking funny. Basically, Jill is unconscious for the entirety of Resident Evil 2. So if you wanted to play the games in chronological order, you would have to play Resident Evil 3 until Jill is unconscious, then go play all of Resident Evil 2, and then go back to Resident Evil 3, beat the rest of the game. And I think that this is a normal and healthy way to play and think about games. Maybe I should do that. I'm normal. I'm healthy. I'm normal. Another cool thing about the original Resident Evil 3 Nemesis is that there are random variants. There are sections of the game where if you reload into it because you die and such, different monsters can appear. There are other moments where zombies can burst out of different areas than they had previously. Or, though most of his appearances are scripted, there are, I believe, 1, maybe 2 moments where Nemesis can or cannot show up. Though in my playthrough, he always showed up. Because I guess he just likes me. Building off the variants in the original, I guess I could just call it Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, because the remake is called Resident Evil 3. The original is Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. Babes, I'm just doing Resident Evil 3 and the 3 remake. You know, I know. That's all we need in this life. So, like I was trying to say, building off of the random variants in Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, there are also moments in the gameplay where you are presented with choices. Once in a while, as Jill walks around the city, she is presented with 2 courses of actions, and you get to pick which one she takes. Sometimes the choices result in instant death, or other times it makes things easier or just a bit more difficult. Like I said, it's a choice, so something happens when you make it. As far as I'm aware, there is only one choice that affects the ending, but it's not in a way that gives you a good or bad ending, if that makes sense. It just changes the sequences of cutscenes that you see. The first time a choice is presented to the player is when you are confronted by Nemesis outside of the Raccoon City Police Department. The choice you are given is simple: fight or flight. I don't believe it's worded like that specifically, but that's basically what the options are. You either choose flight and run into the police department, only to hope that the hulking daddy, Nemesis, doesn't follow you in there, or you choose to fight. There are a couple moments in the game where you are able to fight Nemesis, this being the first. If you are able to down him, he will drop a reward. I know that he drops pieces of powerful weapons that you can combine together, and then when you beat him a certain amount of times, you unlock that weapon. I never fought him in the game because he was scary. The 3 make, however, got rid of these choices. I can't speak for the random variants, which I wouldn't be surprised if they got rid of those too. Honestly, maybe I should have done more research before this, but, this is all vibes-based. In both games, you're able to run around Raccoon City, and though both maps are small, the 3 make felt a little bit more satisfying to me to run around in. That being said, there were parts of the 3 make that made me so confused on how I should be feeling about it. First off, when you start the game, it's in first person, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. That was just jarring for me. I did not expect that, and even though I knew in my brain it was not going to be entirely in first person, part of me was also afraid that it would be, which I don't really want from a remake of one of these games. To be honest, I don't really know how I'm going to feel about it for Requiem either, even though you can switch back and forth, but the 3 make has a lot of hand-holding, not just in the yellow tape aspect, which is pretty egregious in this game. I've never really minded yellow tape until I played the 3 make. There's also moments where in memos, it highlights certain words in green just to be like, oh, this is what you're trying to look for. Just make sure you know that grenade or ass or piss, shit, fart. Like that shit would be in green. I'm getting serious. I'm taking the glasses off. I wish there was a setting so that I could turn those specific parts off. It felt like the game was holding my hand as if this was the first ever video game I had ever played, and it was kind of pissing me off near the end of it. I scoured the options. There was no way to turn this off, and I just wish that the game would have trusted me as a player to figure out what the fuck is going on instead of babying me. Speaking of babying me, let's talk about Carlos. I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm putting the glasses back on, and I'm becoming a professional until I'm still not going to talk about... I'm going to wait to talk about Carlos, okay? I have a script, Ned. Stick to your goddamn script, Ned. Before I played the 3-make, I heard so many mixed opinions on it. And in my Resident Evil 2 video, I believe, I said a theory. I had a theory on why people had so many mixed opinions on it. My theory was that nobody liked the 3-make because Mr. X already filled the role that Nemesis played in the original Resident Evil 3. Nemesis. He was a large, scary bioweapon that chased characters throughout the game. However, when I finally played the 3-make, I started disagreeing with that theory. The 3-make itself feels like it's moving too fast. And by that I mean there's no build-up to anything. Let's take, for example, Nemesis. That's... You shouldn't say that, Ned. That's fucked up. Let's take, for example, Nemesis's entrance in both games. In Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, you get to run around the city for a bit, shooting zombies, figuring out how to unlock areas, the usual territory for a Resident Evil game. Yet when Jill gets to the Raccoon City Police Department for the first time, you get a cutscene. Jill is reunited with another member of STARS. His name is Brad Vickers. He's from the first game. He looks hurt, but when he sees Jill, he begins to run toward her, only to be cut off by Nemesis jumping down from God knows where and killing him. Nemesis then turns to Jill to do the same. This is the moment that the game changes. You know he wants STARS dead. He wants you dead. You never know when he's going to pop up. And when he does, you need to haul ass, or he'll either crush you under his hands or shoot you with a goddamn rocket launcher. Now, in the 3-make, shortly after the beginning, Nemesis just breaks through the wall of Jill's apartment and chases you from the get-go. Is this scary and unexpected? Yes. Did it leave a lasting impact? Not really. The thing that was so scary about Mr. X in the 2-make was that you could hear his footsteps, even if he wasn't directly outside the safe area. You could hear him. You were scared. This one, he just is kind of there. And he runs at you, and yeah, you're on edge, but he's more annoying than scary in the 3-make. Y'all, I realize I've been talking a lot, so let's take a break. And I'll stop talking about Resident Evil 3 Nemesis and the 3-make. And instead I'll talk about Jill's characterization within Resident Evil 1 and this game as well. Jill Valentine is one of the main protagonists of the original Resident Evil game. You get the option to play between her and another character, Chris Redfield, whose sister is one of the main protagonists of the second game, Claire Redfield. It's all tying together. It's all coming up. Zombie. Jill is 23 in these games, so she's pretty young. In the first Resident Evil game, if you select Jill as your protagonist, there is a character named Barry Burton who aids you throughout the game. He pulls you out of dangerous situations. He'll help you with certain boss fights. Yet, other things happen in the game, and by the end, Jill is on her own. She's able to stand on her 2 feet better, and she just fucking kicks ass. Yeah, she gets a rocket launcher thrown at her, but she's the one who shoots it, okay? So shut up. She learns, she grows, she's icon. So yes, it's only been 2 months from the events of the first game to the second game. But like I said, Jill has grown and she's learned from the traumatic experiences that she went through at the Spencer Mansion. And in Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, she spends a lot of that time alone. Yeah, there are moments where you have cutscenes with different characters and such, but what makes the game so scary, and I think I said this about the original two, is that you are alone. You don't have anybody, and you're fighting to even see these people or like help them make it out of that place alive. The 3 remake doesn't really look at her as like a strong, independent woman. It looks at her like a 23-year-old who still doesn't know what she's doing, who now has PTSD, which, that part's understandable. The moment I knew that the 3 remake didn't treat her as her own person, the Jill Valentine that I've grown to really love, was the second time I loaded into the game. Depending on where you are in the game, it'll give you some text of a little summary of what's going on. I got so angry reading this shit when I loaded into the game again for a second time that I took a picture on my greasy little phone camera, and I'm going to read it now, and I might still insert the greasy little picture. This new plague is spreading at a terrifying rate, embedding itself in the corpses already shambling the city streets. The hulking creature has pursued Jill relentlessly in her attempts to escape the city. It would surely have cornered her were it not for the intervention of a man named Carlos. A man, if not... It would have cornered her? If not for a man named Carlos? Excuse me? Excuse me? Alright, y'all. Glasses are off. We're talking about Carlos. The 3 made Carlos so prominent. And look, I'm all for righting the wrongs of problematic portrayals of certain characters, but Jill doesn't need a big, strong man to pull her out of situations, because that's what Barry did in the first game. I'm chill.
I'm normal.
The impression I got from Carlos in Resident Evil 3 Nemesis was that he was a bumbling coward. It might have been his first mission going to the city and doing this with Umbrella. The only moment in Resident Evil 3 Nemesis where he steps up to take charge is when Jill gets infected and is at risk of becoming another victim of the virus. And he's scared because, to me, he knows that he won't be able to make it out of the city without her. The 3 makes Carlos so much more prominent. He's there from the get-go, basically. Right after the introduction of Nemesis, he's now there to tell Jill where to go, aid her, mostly near the end. He's a macho merc with a heart of gold who just cares too much. I didn't need this. In Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, you play as Carlos once. While she's infected and unconscious, Carlos runs to find the cure for her. In the 3 you play as Carlos twice, and this is 2 times too many for me. And at the end of the second time, you have to stand your ground and kill waves of zombies, which feels so out of place for this game. It felt like they were just trying to pad a little bit more time that they didn't really need to do. I wanted to play as Jill. I understand that these games have sections where you play as another character. Like in Resident Evil 2 and the 2 you play as Sherry. I'm like, I hope I didn't get her name wrong, but I'm pretty sure her name is Sherry. Cherry. I understand that. I'm for that. However, 2 was too many times in this scenario. On the other hand, to talk about Jill real quick, it was fun to see her be sarcastic and snarky. As a lover of this series as a whole, this game did make me care about Jill Valentine even more, because usually when we see these characters, they're so serious. When they're not doing fucking backflips like in Resident Evil 4, which I don't know, who knows, maybe next year we'll talk about that, or maybe next year, oh, I got an idea for next year, but I don't want to say it, because it'd be wild. Overall, though I didn't enjoy how the game treated Jill Valentine, I liked playing as her still. I liked this characterization of her. I liked seeing this side of her. Overall, okay, wait. Let me get the glasses. I'm wearing the big hog, by the way. All right, that's kind of worse. Here's some things I did enjoy about the 3 make. The game felt difficult in a different way than the original game did. Instead of being overwhelmed with hordes of zombies, the zombies are harder to beat. Much like the original Resident Evil 2 and 2 make. That's what I should have said. Sure, there are no choices in the 3 make, but you can stun Nemesis by shooting generators that are around the city, and you can still down him to get parts of weapons. I'm just like, every other sentence of this video, I'm questioning myself. And as I said previously, I thought the city was a little bit more fun to run around in. Now, some of the people that I've talked to mentioned that they don't enjoy how on the rails the 3 make feels, especially after getting through the first section of the game. Yet, I don't necessarily think the original was open world. I think the original was also pretty on rails, even though it was a little bit more obtuse in its parts, because it trusted you to figure it out. I don't mind what the 3 make gave me. I actually appreciate that they didn't take a 7 to 8 hour game and make it twice as long for no reason, like some other remakes, which will remain nameless at this time, because I don't want to die. I've been talking way too long. So let's do some closing thoughts. Did I like the 3 make more than Resident Evil 3 Nemesis? No. Do I think the 3 make is worth playing? Yeah, I'm not going to give it an enthusiastic yes like I did for the 2 make. This is more of just like just cross my shoulders, shrug. Yeah, sure. You should play it, especially if you're a fan of the series and want to either experience both versions of the game like I wanted to, or if you struggle with playing older games, which I can't relate. But I do want to encourage people, as always, to go out and play the original game, whether it be buying a physical copy through emulation, or literally on PS5 you can buy it. You can probably buy it on Steam as well, but I know for a fact that the PlayStation Store has it on sale for $10 usually, and sometimes they lower it to $5. So you can just get it on PlayStation Store. At least the PS5 PlayStation Store. I don't know what it looks like on there, but I'm sure it's just a report, which, please, I'm begging people to just report games. I just want re-releases. I don't always want a remake. If you struggle with older games because you're not a big, strong gamer like me, yeah, play this remake. You'll have a fun time still. I didn't really write an ending to this video. So if you like it, please feel free to leave a subscription, click the comment button, or write a like. If this... Oh my god, I'm dropping crap. If this video gets 100 views and 20 likes, I will either play a game in my house for fun, I'll make a video of a playthrough of a game that you recommend in the comments if it's weird, or I'll just make a regular normal video. Bye-bye. I actually don't want you to have that. Not yet.